Hello, this is South Africa at 30. It's a podcast brought to you by Brand South Africa, where we look at the country through a lens of growth potential and opportunity. I'm Jeremy Maggs, and it's my job, my delightful job, to showcase and engage stakeholders, decision makers, and general movers and shakers as we retrace where they came from, take a view on where they're going and how they're getting there. My guest today already knew that in grade 2 he wanted to be a famous fashion designer, and boy, that he is. He has dressed just about every local celebrity you can think of, and he's captured the international fashion market with one of his dresses even making its way onto a Kardashian. But it's his optimism and belief in himself and others that really interests me. So, a very warm Brand South Africa welcome to Gert Johan Coetzee. Gert, a very warm welcome. And let's go back to grade 2.
Right.
The story goes untold that you made your first dress when your father gave you 30 Rand for material. I want to know about the dress, but I also want to know what you could buy for 30 Rand.
Remember, that was a few years ago, right? And I think my dad realized if he's not going to give me money or take me to a fabric shop, I'm just going to cut up a curtain. And I think it was that kind of like risk-reward thing that made him take me to the little fabric shop in town. And I asked my mom what was her favorite color, and she said navy. And I made the ugliest navy ball gown that you can ever imagine.
But you still remember it, don't you?
I still have the dress.
Yeah?
Yeah. So it is in a box in the archive, and it's marked Gert's first dress.
Yeah.
And it is amongst all the beautiful things that I've done for Oprah and all the other international celebrities.
Let's get to Oprah in a while. But at some point when there is the Gert retrospective at the Design Museum somewhere, out comes that dress.
That is when that dress is going to come out.
That's when the dress is going to come out. What you didn't tell me is which town was this where you went to go and buy the fabric?
This was in Coetzee, the little fabric shop in Coetzee, which is a small little town in the northwest where I grew up.
So you go to Rustenburg and then you keep driving.
Yes. Just before you hit Botswana, that's where Coetzee is.
And tell me where the interest came from. I mean, I knew when I was a young man, maybe, 12, 13 years old, all I ever wanted to be was in journalism.
Right.
That was, and I think you probably have the same experience. You probably knew from a very early age that it was ingrained into you. What was it? Where did the energy, where did the direction come from?
I think if I have to be honest, I think it's probably from a previous life or something, because I just was born to be a fashion designer, and I was thought at first it was a seamstress or something else. I never knew that you could go and study fashion design up until I was like 13. I thought you became a seamstress because I just wanted to make clothes. And sometimes when I do work and I do design and I make stuff, it's like something that I've never taught. It's something that I just know how to do. It's like in my blood. That's why I always joke and say I was a fashion designer in a previous life.
How much time these days do you spend actually sitting down and conceptualizing and designing, given that you're also running a very successful business?
Thank you.
So it's always the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you tend to become business over design, but you're in business because of design. You've got to find that balance.
Exactly. Yeah. So at my life at the moment is just about sketching and research and sampling and development. It's the fun side of fashion, where you just literally get to design the whole day. You need to conceptualize, you can dream all these collections, because now finally I'm at a point of my career where I don't have to be sewing or managing people too much. I've got people that does all of that for me. I just have a few boring meetings a week, but my literal day job is to sketch and to think of new things and to be inspired and really look for inspiration. And creativity on its own is such a subject that's so interesting to me, because you really have to cultivate that.
I've interviewed so many people in the advertising world who talk about having to stay creatively fit. Do you understand?
Yes.
How do you stay creatively fit?
So the key thing about creativity is really exposing yourself to different things all the time. So I really like to get out of my box, try and do different things every day, try and meditate. That is super important. So I do meditations twice a day to be really calm in your mind and to be open to these crazy ideas, and really just thinking, how can you turn something upside down? What is a different way of doing it? What else is possible? What other opinions are there?
Is the canvas ever blank? And do you get anxious if the canvas is blank?
I do get anxious, but that is why I have other designers that can then at that point come up with a few designs. So luckily I'm not the only designer at Coetzee. We're about three, and we kind of all like work off each other. Where I'm the creative leader, they also have great ideas of themselves.
So we were talking about being creatively fit, and you spoke about sometimes, people to help you with fill out the blank canvas
Yeah.
if the blank canvas isn't coming to life.
Like,
How do you know when you've got a good idea?
you know what? I think when everybody goes, wow, when it's finally made and everybody goes, wow, that is great. I would wear that. I want to wear that. I know people that wear it. That is how I know. But then by then you have the final product. So more in the conceptualizing stages of it, it's a lot about trusting your gut and your instinct and just really following that.
And that gut and instinct is honed over time. It's almost a form of creative wisdom, I guess. Let's get back to filling that creative canvas and the anxiety that you feel. You've got people to help you, but it's that going back on experience, and I called it creative wisdom. And I guess that just comes with time. You know what to jettison and what to include almost instinctively. Am I right?
And also, I know my brand.
Yeah.
I know what it stands for. I know what it looks like. We all know exactly what the Coetzee girl is about, or boy. So it's really about any time when you get lost in any part of the creative process, you can just kind of go back to that core person. And what's also fun about designing for a specific group of people is their lives are also developing and changing like yours is. So you constantly have to be mindful of they are not where they were last year. They also went through COVID. They also went through growth in their life, and then adapt your creativity to suit their needs.
So from a hideous blue dress that now lives in a box
Yeah.
to the business that you have developed now, tell me a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey. And I'm also interested to know what kind of funding and what kind of support you either did or didn't get.
So I think one of the major things that I quickly realized in my career, and this is also part of creativity, it's the creativity of business, right? I realized that I'm very creative, but business is where I'm going to need a lot of help. I had no clue where to start. So me and my partner, quickly then enrolled in a business incubator. And I would always recommend, especially in a creative field, that you do that. So that from start go, you manage this career not as a hobby, but as a business that is going to grow and going to outgrow yourself as a person. So to make ready for that and to put those systems and procedures into place for when, even if you just have 3 employees at the moment, but to have those systems and policies in place for when you have 30 or 100 employees so that the wheels don't come off. Because in fashion, the wheels can come off very quickly because we get very busy. And especially if you are a person that's doing something that people want, people keep on wanting more, and you get busier and busier, and it gets harder and harder to manage all those things. So I think from an entrepreneurial point of view, those type of things was instilled in myself. I think that comes from my father. He's a businessman, to really make sure that the foundation is laid correctly, and then to make sure that you just run the business properly. Because I always say that I'm not responsible just for my own life. I'm responsible for the families of all the ladies and men that I employ as well. So if I mess up, they're all out of a job.
And it's an onerous responsibility,
exactly.
isn't it?
So I take that extremely. That's extremely important to me to know the responsibility that is on my neck, and that circles back to creativity as well. Because if I don't have good ideas and the product stops selling, there is a lot of people out of a job.
Gert, I want to push this a little bit further. What kind of support do you think that government and, for that matter, society, beyond the incubators that you've spoken about, should be giving creative people like you, young entrepreneurs like you, the support to turn an SMME into a real job creator? First of all, how many people do you employ?
I employ a lot,
Yeah.
more than 30 years.
Okay, that's a medium-sized business that will become a big business at some point. So the question is, I mean, what kind of support should be given?
So I think when I spoke about the business incubator earlier, that was not a government program. That is something that I funded myself. I have never thought about asking government for funding because I've always been able to create my own funding.
Not everyone can do that.
Not everybody can do that. But also, I don't think it will be irresponsible to give somebody as young and stupid as I was when I was just starting out money to go and try and run a business with, because I had no idea what I was doing. I think also because I did all of this with my own money, you are a little bit more cautious, you're a little bit smarter.
You understand risk better?
Yes, you understand risk, you make razor-thin decisions. And also, sometimes it's also not great to grow too quickly. If somebody threw millions of rands at me when I was younger, I would not have the capacity, the knowledge to create all these orders or to create this, to grow this business. So I think I'm grateful for the way that it kind of like 1 rand turns into 2 rand, the more organic way, where now when I am more established and know how to handle growth, how to not overstretch yourself, how to be able to deliver the whole value chain of creating, say, a handbag. Now, I think it's important for a designer that has got the business backing to now perhaps go and ask for funding somewhere. But also, I never rely on government funding.
It's on the back of businesses like yours that this country's economy is going to be developed further and grown into a real African tiger, which is absolutely critical.
Thank you.
Describe the essence of your brand as we're having this conversation. White T-shirt with Gert on. Not going to make a comment about the gold the gold chain and also the jacket. I mean, what? Give me the
And the earrings.
And the
This
earrings
is
are those,
also Gert and Coetzee earrings. Yeah.
Tell me, give me the essence of the Gert brand.
So Gert has got. The Gert and Coetzee brand's got 2 personalities, right? So the major mother brand is Gert and Coetzee, GJC for short, just for the Americans, so that they can also say it. So that brand.
Gotta help the Americans.
You have to help them.
Yeah.
That brand is about. It's really a modern twist on African Baroque. That is my point of view. It's very classical. It is very timeless. It is more muted colors. It's more of like a serious couture brand. Then I've got the Gert brand. And the Gert brand is where I'm having fun. That is streetwear. That is
like what we're looking
pop
at now.
culture.
Yeah.
That is what is, it's louder, it's younger, it's got punk rock in it. So it's a bit more of like a grungier point of view than the GJC brand has, which is more classical.
But
So
2
that's
distinct brands, though.
Definitely, definitely. So in the US and other parts of the world, we promote the GJC brand more, and that brand is more very much African. It's got the 2 elephants that symbolizes strength as the mascot. And that is very much more international, and I think that is what has been seen on red carpets around the world. Those are my wedding dresses, my custom-made pieces. Where the Gert brand at the moment is more popular in Africa. So in South Africa and our neighboring countries, the Gert brand is definitely spearheading, but the GJC brand is what is being showcased more around the world.
I'm glad we're talking, or the conversation has moved into branding and South Africa and the continent. Brand Africa research, Gert, reveals that 68% of South Africans believe in Africa. Only 33% are loyal to South African brands. Those aren't good numbers.
Not at all.
How do we change that, do you think?
You know what? I don't know where the change needs to start, because there is a gap in the market for different levels of fashion. Obviously, Gert and Coetzee is luxury fashion. So it's aimed at like a higher LSM. So the clothes are more expensive. So I do understand when people say that, oh, Gert, you want us to wear South African, but you are charging 2,500 rand for a T-shirt. Completely understand that. And then it's then not for everybody. It's for that price bracket of South African or consumer that wants to buy into Africa. But there is definitely space for talent that can come in and sell a t-shirt at a reasonable price point. If you look at Galaxy Boy, a designer that I really admire, his business, he's got, I think, 28 stores around or 16 stores around the country, and he caters at a t-shirt for 700 Rand. So you see, so there are options for us, but I definitely do think, because I speak to the youth a lot through my bursary programs and just also through trying to spread the gospel of fashion and entrepreneurship, there is definitely a gap for designers to come in at a friendlier price point that is more for the masses. And then by doing that, it's the same conversation of sustainability, giving them something that is more beautiful, more attractive than a American designer or a Chinese product, to give them an option that is in their budget, but that is beautiful. That is the challenge that the designers must take up against themselves.
Yeah, I get that, but it's also up to the South African consuming public to believe in what you're doing, the quality that you are producing, and the back end, the jobs that you're creating as a result of the hard work that you're putting in.
Definitely.
So it's a two-way street, isn't it?
It's a two-way street. And I also feel the same way about sustainability is such a hot topic. And this topic has come in fashion many years ago. We've started, even when I started, we started learning about sustainability. And my point of view has always been to give people extremely beautiful, sustainable clothes to wear. If you have to choose a less sustainable item or a more beautiful, sustainable item, you're obviously going to buy the more beautiful one. So that is also, it comes down to the designers to really give the public choice and superior products to suit what they're trying to do in their business.
So let's come back to business in a moment, but the art, I think, of any good conversation is to give us a bit of the fiber, all the business stuff, but let's talk a bit of goss now, if we can.
Let's go for it.
Far more interesting. You mentioned Oprah.
Yes.
There's a Kardashian on the radar screen somewhere. Spill, my friend.
So, you know what? I have been very lucky to have been on the shopping list of lots of A-listers around the world, from Nigeria to South Africa to Hollywood. And I think the biggest feather in my cap has to be custom doing a few pieces for Miss Oprah Winfrey. And that was super exciting. When you get a call from Oprah Winfrey herself.
Go on, tell us about the call. Then I'll tell you my Oprah story.
Oh, please. Yeah. Okay. So I got contacted on Instagram by her stylist asking if I could do a few pieces for Miss Winfrey. And I said, of course, yes. When do you want it? And we started back and forth.
Gert, you're telling a bad story here, man. What did you feel like when you got that message?
I mean, obviously, I was like, at first I thought it was a spoof. I thought like, please. Yeah. And then Annabelle started, like, we were confused about what color and what texture. And then Annabelle said, you know what? I think it's best if Miss Winfrey phones you herself. And I was, that's perfect. What, next week, Thursday, when suits her?
I think I know where this is going. Yeah.
Next moment, my phone rings and she just says, hey, Gert, this is Oprah. Can you chat? And we had a 30-minute conversation about what these dresses must look like and where she's going to wear them. And
were you pinching yourself?
I was pinching myself. That was the scariest thing. Yeah. A few days later, Miss Winfrey then arrived at my studio for her fittings. And that, you would have think that was going to be the big moment. But I think the big fright came from the phone call. And she came for fittings. We delivered the pieces.
At this point, she's a star, of course.
She's a massive
But she's
star.
A customer now as well.
Yes, exactly.
You've got to be on your A game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember, of course, it's Oprah, so you want a picture with her, but you can't ask.
Sure, you can ask.
So, but I didn't want to overstep, right? You know, manners is always, Afrikaans, so manners is very important.
You were brought up in Koster, yes. Very polite there, yeah.
So, but I organized a photographer just for in case the moment arrives. So the photographer's in the other room. Yeah. And just before they go, Miss Winfrey asked me, Gert, would you like a picture with me? And I'm like, yes, of course. I'll pop the photographer, take the pictures. It was so exciting. Yeah. It was so exciting.
She is the most astonishing person. Many, many years ago, I think when you were probably quite young in Koster, I was doing a television program. She came out to South Africa and I attended a function and I was introduced to her. And what astonished me about her was that there was a long line of people. It wasn't a one-on-one like you had, a long line of people. But for the 45 or 50 seconds that I had her in my conversational paradigm or orbit, I got her full and absolute attention. And she'd been briefed. So she knew who I was. She knew all about the television show I was doing. She was interested. Someone had obviously whispered to her, oh, he's also got 2 daughters as well. She said, oh, Jeremy, how are the daughters?
Oh,
And then she moved on. It was a great pleasure. Got the picture. Okay, still got the picture in my study at home. But she's an absolute star. But like any star, she also understands humility and she understands the common or the human touch,
yeah.
which is important. I'm
That
sure
is
you
so
found
beautiful.
that too.
That
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And I do get a WhatsApp from Miss Winfrey now and then, and every time there's a WhatsApp, it's like you don't touch the phone. You first show everybody in the office,
Sorry, everyone. Oprah, yeah, just
and then
I'm busy. Yeah,
and then it's about typing the reply. So then it's like a whole team effort to type this reply. But that is just how starstruck we get with people that we
Oprah,
admire.
and then come on, one more.
So
I did mention a Kardashian.
Yeah. So the Kardashian thing was wonderful. That happened quite early in my career. One of the other greatest moments has to be Cardi B. That was such a phenomenal moment, creating with because I'm into fashion. I don't just get excited about the star. I also get excited about working with a celebrity stylist in America, and that's also
Many of whom are stars in their own right, aren't they?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I work with Colin. I forget his surname now, but he's a massive stylist in LA, and we just collaborated on this beautiful garment for Cardi B. But now also we can't just. It's not a business if you're jumping from one height to another. So we had to come to a point where, because America started calling more and more, and the problem was shipping and time frame with shipping. So then what I've decided to do for the last 2 years, I've actually rented a showroom in LA where the newest collections get showcased through an online system. And it makes it so much quicker and easier for American stars to then request a garment and it then gets shipped to them. They can then wear it and then return it, which is great for myself and I think for South African fashion in general, to be able to have something that was created here on international people that gets seen by millions around the world, so easily available, I think is one step closer to going global with this brand, this dream that I have.
So going global, it would make sense in many ways for you not to live in South Africa. However, you choose to do that. And I think one of the reasons, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, but I think one of the reasons that you do that, and you said it to me early on in the conversation, is you are always looking outside the box into South Africa, and you are getting your inspiration, I would imagine, from
here.
the rich heritage, the rich culture. Even, I mean, we're recording this conversation in a shopping mall studio in Rosebank in Johannesburg. I'm sure as you walk through the mall, there's a unique South African feel about it. You would perhaps be inspired. And that is the essence, I would imagine, of your brand. Leave and go and settle somewhere permanently, you would lose that essence.
You are so right.
Of brand South Africa. Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, exactly. And I was going to say that the whole Gert and Coetzee story is about South Africa. That is what the African Baroque brand is about. It's my point of view. I think the most important thing is telling an authentic story and telling my version of the South African story through my point of view. And if I leave South Africa, that story is no longer true. And I think authenticity is super important with storytelling. And that is why it's a global village. I can live in South Africa. I can travel the world with the drop of a hat. I mean, if I leave now, I can be in London tonight. So you get, so those borders and boundaries that people say to themselves is really in their mind because there's no reason why you can't be so international from South Africa.
Beyond the world of fashion, tell me a little bit more about your understanding of brand South Africa and why it's so important to you. And as we look, there's the podcast. South Africa at 30. It's been a tough 30 years. Things are changing.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the good, sometimes not for good. We're a resilient nation. We tend to come together in times of crisis. What does South Africa at 30 mean to you?
And you see, that's such a beautiful thing about South Africans is we can fight about many things. If you look at the politics, it's a complete circus. But when it's rugby or there is Youth Day or there's some big event, then we all are one. It's amazing how we can just all stand together.
And so quickly.
And so quickly. It's like the drop of a hat. You know, Brand South Africa, what I really admire about them is how much they've actually done. If you look at so many people that they've taken international, so much noise that they've made of us in other countries, I think that is just phenomenal, and it's really great.
Tell me a little bit, Gert, about your bursary and mentorship program.
And it's launching. Yeah. It's out now. Yes, thank you. So this is, sure, guys, I started in 2011, was the first bursary program I endorsed and sponsored. So there's been so many students. There was a time where, just before COVID, where we did 2 bursaries a year, but this year it's 1 bursary to go and study where I studied at the Northwest School of Design in Klerksdorp, where they get the same education that I got. So it makes them so much more relatable to when they come for their mentorship. Because throwing a bursary at somebody is one thing, but giving them a Bernina sewing machine, a laptop, and then paying for their school fees for the 3 years, but really giving them that work experience where they get to come to me as many times as they want throughout the year, and they get to work in my studio, and we get to mentor them and massage and sharpen their blades so that when they leave by the end of the 3-year degree, they then have the knowledge to go out there and to find a proper job. Most of the time I try and employ them, but most of the time they also find a job of their own, which is then wonderful to see how they've grown. I mean, we launched the bursary on the 15th of July, and just typing out the press release for the announcement of the bursary, I asked all the past winners to give me a kind of like a where are they now thing. And it is so amazing because I don't have contact with all of them anymore, but it's so amazing to see what successes they have made from receiving this bursary. So I'm excited. It is closing in September. All the information is on the link in my Instagram, so they can just go there and enter, and then may the best man win.
And maybe that best man will also get to dress Oprah.
Yes, exactly. Because
you never know.
Lots of them has gone on to become big stars in South Africa, and that is what I love. To see them also spreading their wings, dressing celebrities, selling their clothes, people wearing their clothes. It's so much fun.
What about local celebrities? You work closely with them? Who do we know?
Of course. Most of them are such close friends of mine. I'm very good friends with Nadia Nakai Coetzee, wears a lot of my things. Larata Kanyach, of course, is one of my best friends. And she's always decked out in something that I've come up with for her. And it's fun because they trust me. And they just kind of let me do it's like playing dress up and doll with these life-size beautiful Barbies, which was so much fun. So of course there's lots of South African celebrities, but by now I think of them more as my friends. So I always forget to mention them because I feel like I know them too well.
You're forgiven if you haven't mentioned all of them.
Yes, please.
One of the things that I'm interested in is South Africa and fashion and promoting it further on a global stage. And this is my premise, is that we do punch above our weight, and you're a great example of that.
Thank you.
Yet we are not perhaps universally known as a fashion capital.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that South African fashion and creativity starts to accelerate more on the global stage? And by doing that, Gert, you will also boost tourism to South Africa, you'll boost foreign direct investment into South Africa. You are the sharp edge of a very important spear.
Yeah, and also the job creation. The more we can more we can sell, the better.
How do you do that? How do you start pushing it harder?
You know what? I'm pushing it as hard as I can through doing the showroom in LA, through constantly being innovative with technology. That is a big passion of mine. Doing something that is not done anywhere else in the world, because that is the first thing that South African designers need to excel at, is having that extremely unique point of view. And not just saying like my point of view, but each of us needs to have such a different aesthetic to what is already out there, because then why would they buy it here if there's a European designer that's doing something so similar out of better or more beautiful fabrics? But what I do think what will also help spearhead something like this, and it connects back to Brand South Africa, is to create opportunities for more qualified designers to go and showcase their work and sell their work in different countries. I think that is going to be able to create mass awareness if there is opportunities like those, because there are opportunities where designers go showcase around the world all the time, but I've never heard of these designers, and then after the show they just disappear. Where I was speaking to my fellow colleagues in the industry, and I feel like if it's not just it's not me for sake, but somebody like me that has a business that employs people, that has a track record of manufacturing beautiful clothes, letting them showcase on major platforms in the world where we then can get seen. Because at the end of the day, it's not really what you know, it's who you know, and being able to make those connections organically will be able to take the industry further.
When you get in your car and you drive back to Costa, what do people say to you?
It's so much fun going to Costa. They're also proud of me. I mean, they just can't believe. First, it took years for them to understand what I'm doing, because I don't think they really understand what how I make a living out of this if I don't make dresses for your wife and that one's wife and that one's wife, but really producing a collection and selling it is different to them. And I think it's strange for them to see my name on everything and bags with Gert on. I think in the beginning I thought it was hilarious, but now they understand and they get it, and they're all very proud of me.
And finally, the future for your twin brands and the future of the South African fashion industry. Where is your head right now?
So we have been very lucky with all these noise that we've been making internationally, that we did get invited to one of the major fashion weeks in the country. So that is very exciting. And I'm really looking forward to opportunities that will open up. And it's so interesting. The story about that is because I wanted to showcase internationally so badly. And I haven't showcased at one of the major fashion weeks ever. So my partner and I were discussing it, and he told me, just create the collection. Just start creating the best collection that you can ever create, and then the opportunity will come.
Good advice.
And I've been working on this collection since February, and now a month ago the opportunity came, and the collection is almost done because I've been working on it for so long. So for Gert, Johan, Coetzee and Gert, I really do say, I want to be able to export more clothes. I want to be able to have more clothes in stores, not just in South Africa, but also in the world, because this is also an important thing. Is there was a point where I had these dreams, but the fact of the matter is my products in South Africa is always sold out. So how can you go and try and sell clothes to Europe, America, even Botswana, if you can't even service the demand in your own country? And that was a very valid question that came up in February. And that is something that we've been working on this year, so that we do have the capacity to create enough garments to service not just South Africa, but Africa and then the world. So I think that is kind of the approach that we are taking. And now that this beautiful opportunity has come across, and also being able to sell there, it just opens up so many horizons for Gert and Coetzee. And then for the fashion industry as a whole, I think really focusing on creating beautiful products that people really want and people desire is the first step. And then really making sure, and this is more for young designers, that you grow at your own pace so that you don't get to a point where the wheels come off and you disappoint people, because you only have one reputation and you really have to take care of that reputation. So organic growth, I think, is very important for young designers.
Gert, Johan, Coetzee, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.